All right, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Forward Thinking Founders, where we talk to founders about their companies, their visions for the future, and how the two collide. Today, I'm very excited to be talking to Doug Ludlow, who is one of the co-founders of Mainstreet. Welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going great. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I have just got my second cup of coffee, feeling energized and excited to be talking to you.
Perfect. Me too.
For people that don't know what you're working on or haven't heard of Mainstreet, can you kind of share what you're working on?
Sure. So the concept behind Main Street is actually pretty simple. Main Street helps connect startup founders with tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of savings per year by connecting with government credits and incentives they didn't even know existed. So
Yeah, that sounds like magic. That sounds amazing. Can you love to kind of a little deeper? How does that work? How can a little more into how the process works? How startups can kind of do that and tap into some of those credits?
Totally. Well, let me give some context for the government credits and incentives world. So, I didn't know anything before starting this. I didn't know anything about this world, right? It was a mystery to me. It did sound like magic, but through a variety of different, factors, we ended up discovering this world of government credits and incentives. And it turns out that this is a $300 billion a year industry. It's $150 billion a year in the U.S. alone, and yet it's almost entirely dominated by the biggest of companies, the Boeings, the Walmarts, the Amazons, these companies with sophisticated government relations teams that identify these credits, sometimes negotiate these credits, and literally save their companies billions and billions of dollars. And so, this was like actually the first of the big breakthroughs we had at Main Street is recognizing that, hey, this is what we should do. Main Street should become, in many ways, like the mini government mini government relations team for the startup or the small business. We can build this marketplace of the more than 2,000 different credits that exist in the United States, everywhere from the federal level, like federal research and development tax credits, down to the local, $10,000 for moving your remote job to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Put together this marketplace, make it super easy for founders to discover this, make application order of magnitude easier, and as a result, end up saving, as I mentioned, tens if not hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. So long story short, we're taking this market that has traditionally only been accessed by the world's largest companies and making it accessible to the small business or startup.
So let's kind of talk about from the perspective of a startup. So if a startup is listening, which most of my listeners are startups, which is great, and they're thinking about like how to use this, I guess, can you kind of describe a little bit in what way it works for a startup? Let's say I have a startup for Thinking City. If I wanted to see if there was any potential, anything I can do with the government, any like money that I could potentially collect, anything like that, how would that work? I just would love to learn more about like how it specifically works for like a startup looking to potentially try it out.
Sure. So, we recognize that the world of credits and incentives is a bit complicated, right? And it's actually pretty intimidating. I'm a grown man. I've been doing my tax for 20 years, and I still get a little worried when I look at the tax forms every year, right? I get nervous, and founders, it's the last thing on their mind when they're starting their company. So we decided to make it really easy. The average founder should spend no more than 15 minutes a year on Main Street. So here's how it works. You'll go to our site, mainstreet.us, answer just a few questions, and then we'll ask you to connect to Main Street your HR system, your Gusto, your Rippling, your JustWorks. And from that, we're able to identify and estimate within a remarkable degree of accuracy which credits and incentives you'll actually be eligible for, right? Modern HR systems contain a lot of information: address, salary, location, job title. All those things we use, we pull in. It's all anonymized. We don't store this data. We don't need to store this data. But we use it to match against credits that you are likely eligible for. And in doing so, all you have to do is connect. We'll give you a list of, hey, we think you're eligible for X, Y, and Z with a savings of 1, 2, and 3. Would you like to proceed? So that's really the work that needs to get done. There's some stuff, that happens once we've accomplished this work for you. Well, occasionally, like something will be filed with the IRS, or we'll need to, work with your accountant to do something. But that all happens, behind the scenes of the entrepreneur. Really, 15 minutes a year worth of work is all we really want you to do.
I'm intrigued to hear how you're currently getting the word out about this. I feel like this is a startup's like dream, like almost like something that they wouldn't know about if it weren't for you, and then because of you, it unlocks so much potential savings. How are you spreading the word about this, or are startups just like knocking down your door every day to try to get in?
That's a great question. I Our go to market has actually been uh, pretty simple. And to your point, most over 60% of our signups come from referrals, right? Or a founder telling another founder, or a venture capitalist telling the portfolio companies. Uh, so there's a nice level of virality there, because you want to share this with your friends. Do you want to it's kind of like giving away free money. Like, you feel good about giving it away, the company feels good about it. Uh, again, overwhelmingly, it comes through referrals that are done organically. Uh, we've also done a little bit of paid marketing, uh, on different channels where startup founders hang out. Whether it's at Product Hunt or different newsletters. That's been a pretty effective way as well. I think the one thing we found that startup founders have, less than money right now, is time. And so really it's vital to catch someone when they're paying attention. It's also that's why we're trying to lean into the referral world here, because I don't want to spend the time convincing you. I'd much rather have your friend tell you, "Hey, join Mainstreet. It's totally," or you're a trusted VC or trusted accelerator leader, right? That really is the right channel for promoting this.
And because of the simplicity of the well, I don't know if the product is simple, but like the offering is simple. It's like it's a simple user experience. I'm kind of intrigued to know, like, what's an average day for you, and what you spend your time on. Is it shipping code? Are you just trying to get people to refer? What is an average day in the life of the CEO of this company?
That's a great question, and I assure you that during work from home and shelter in place, my days changed a little bit too. It's been an interesting, most of Main Street's growth has happened during this COVID time. Uh, so I mean, part of my day is going out, and I may have to do it during this interview, and taking care of my kids. Two kids, 8 and 11, almost 9 and 12 here. So that's been an interesting challenge for me and the team. But there are really three areas of focus that we have as a company. And one is, again, just providing a user experience that is remarkably simple, right? And when we started this, when we released our pilot in February, it was a clunky, operationally driven process, right? No two bones about it. And so there's a constant push for our product and eng team, to make this. Our dream would be you a few clicks, you OAuth in with your Google account, you then OAuth into your HR platform, maybe your QuickBooks, and you've been spit out, the credits and incentives are going to work, right? So pushing towards that vision where, like, basically like the dream of the one button, get credits, get money, like that's what we're always striving. We'll never quite get there, but that's our goal. So like an enormous amount of time is focused on the consumer experience. There's also a constant effort to like identify new credits, stay on top of how that world is evolving. As you can imagine, the world of government support is an interesting one right now, given the COVID credits. There's big pushes to expand research and development. So we have a team that we're spinning up as well. That's focused on there's 2,000 different credits in the United States. We want all of them be on in just a few months from now, right? We then actually want to give cities, states, and counties tools to run brand new types of incentives through Mainstreet as well, right? So building out that marketplace is really, really important to us. And so there's a lot of other things we talk about as well. My job though as CEO is spent, I certainly work with deeply in the product, deeply in sales, but fundraising and recruiting ends up being a big part of my day too. We're growing quickly. We need top talent. So if anyone's listening right now who wants to join a really exciting, interesting company, join. And also just navigating the world of VC and hyper growth, and that's a big chunk of my day as well.
I actually want to like dive into that slightly in regards to you're growing really quickly, which means obviously the only way to truly grow as a organization is to hire great talent, because like you're one human being, and the way you have leverage is by hiring great people. How do you think about it, balancing hiring exceptional talent and knowing that you need that talent in as like soon as possible, so you can like sustain your growth. Do you? It's almost like this polling forces where it's like you have to be patient for the right person, but you also have to make bets when you have to make bets. How do you think about hiring these type of people, like leadership positions, to help you sustain your growth, to kind of take you to the next level?
That's a great question, and it's one a lot of startup founders struggle with. And this is my third company. I and I think the first two companies I had, I definitely struggled with that. How do you recruit great people? I One of the things I've learned, in this startup during my startup journey, is that it takes months to recruit good people. Right, the best people generally have really good jobs that they love, right, that they're contributing to, right. They're working a great job at Facebook or Google, or they've been part of a growth startup, uh, and these are the people you want. And so it takes months worth of recruiting. You need to start well before you actually need that person, and you develop the relationship. You start giving the story. Uh, we're about to bring on some people right now that uh, you know I've been actively recruiting for 4 months, right? And who I've been developing relationships with for years. These people are my friends, but they're also people I've identified very early on that I would love to work with that person again. So the advice I'd give to founders who are looking to hire is stop it. Go to your network first, and the network of people you trust that are great, and then start recruiting them now, even if you can't hire them 6 months later. Uh, there's this investor, Mark Suster, who talks about he invests in companies. He invests in lines, not dots, right? He likes to see the progress of of companies as they go. And I think great talent is the same way, right? To where they want to see the progress, they want to see a company grow. And if you can show even over the month or two where you're talking to them and recruiting them, hey, we've actually launched this, or we closed that client, we're growing, that helps. So uh, if you need to recruit talent at the if you're waiting until the last minute, it's too late, right? And you're gonna then have to make compromises. If you start really early and you just understand as a founder, uh, that's a big part of your job description. Uh, then you'll be okay.
And one last question on the hiring front, just because I'm curious myself as a founder. At what point at what point did you for Main Street need to like make the mental shift from doing it all yourself when you first started to realizing, okay, like I gotta hire like some people that are just as good as me or better than me to do the job? Like actually specifically, like what size of the company, like was it 3 employees when you realized that? Was it 5? Was it 10? Just because I think that a lot of people listening are in this stage of
Yeah.
like when is it time to like, great, like I got to get more hands off, I got to get other people's hands in. What stage of the company were you at when you realized that was the case?
So pretty early, I think our co-founders and I, we actually started talking about, what type of company do you want to build, while we were at Google. So we spent about 6 months, it was just three of us, brainstorming and like not coming up with specific plans, but talking about the type of company we wanted to build. Uh, we didn't hire our first person until, gosh, it was either late January. We started the company in October, didn't hire our first person outside of the first three, uh, until February, I believe it was, maybe late January. And it got to the point where we recognized that we need people who had skills we didn't have. Uh, a great analogy I like to use is, I used to play soccer as a kid, and my kids played soccer. And when little kids play soccer, it's like bunch ball. Everyone's running in, everyone's doing everything. There's this giant pack of kids running around the field, and like that's a startup. Like, and that's how it feels, the early chaos. But just like a soccer team, you can't scale with that. You can't win. As you get older and you get more adult, you start taking different positions and like you spread out. Uh, you're not responsible for everything. You're responsible for your area. Uh, that's what ends up happening to a startup as well, right? And so once we start realizing like actually we all can't dogpile, there's so much to do, and we need specialization. That's when you realize we need to start scaling. We need to start hiring outside people. So long story short, like you don't want to like if I've understand at this point that I have some strengths, uh, but I have more weaknesses than strengths, right? I'm good at some things. I'm not good at everything. The faster I can get really good people to take over weak spots for me, the stronger this company will be. And I think that's good advice for any founder.
And let's say you follow that advice, for the next decade or 2 decades, or ultimately until you build this giant company that serves so many startups and organizations. What does that look like? Or I guess in other words, what is the big vision that you have for Main Street, and kind of what direction are you rowing in?
Sure. That's a great question. I so I think Main Street represents a amazing confluence of the things I actually care about. On one hand, I started my career in politics. That was my first job outside of college. I actually do care very deeply about the state of the world, the state of the country. Like, one of the reasons we started Main Street is, for me personally, was to help bring opportunity to my hometown, which is kind of a rural area that was, over the last 40 years, the economy's been chipped away. Uh, so on one hand, I'm recognizing this is something to do this actually, they joked about this on the show Silicon Valley, but like making the world a better place. I think we are actually making the world a better place. And at the same time, we have this opportunity to build what could be a really commercially successful company, right? And so it's this confluence of things I care about. What I would like to see Main Street in 5 to 10 years is the entrepreneur or small business owner. I want to be your first stop, right? When you're starting a company, like, very first thing you do is to create a Main Street account, right? Because we will be able to, not just government credits incentives, we want to be able to provide all the support that you need, right, to be successful in your journey, right? Whether it's financing through credits and incentives, whether it's getting you discounts on software, whether it's interesting financing, right? We could be the hub, like really the financial hub of your company that helps you be successful, provide you finance in ways that other people couldn't, provide you support in ways that no one else can. We'd like to be a vital part of the economic development landscape of the country and the world, right? To where there's this giant pool of money, right, and support that the government, and actually outside of the organizations, tries to give to small businesses and startups, right? And yet there's this gulf between what the hundreds of billions of dollars have been set up to do, and actually the founders that need that money. And I think it's an incredibly worthwhile use of my time and our company's time to be that bridge, right? Because then you strengthen cities, you strengthen counties, you strengthen startups and small businesses. Everyone wins if Main Street's successful.
I love that. That's a great way to think about it. And to get there, for everyone to win, you'll need some help, right? Like you'll need some employees, you'll need startups, right. You'll need potentially more investors if you want more investors. But what you'll definitely need, I can guarantee it, is help from the forward-thinking founders community. So for my last question for you is, how can the listeners help? Are you hiring? If so, kind of who are you hiring for? Are you looking for investors? Are you looking for startups to use Main Street? How can the listeners help?
We're looking for all of those things. So I'll start with customers. Yeah, go to mainstreet.us, and we'll set you up. We'll help you save tens, if not, the average person on the platform is now saving, I think, north of $70,000 a year. So if you're a startup founder, when you're done hearing this, go to mainstreet.us, and we'll be able to set you up. If you're someone looking to find a new role, we're hiring a variety of roles, strengthening our engineering team. We're looking to augment our finance team and government relations team. So we're hiring slightly more than the average. Our profile is slightly more diverse than the average startup company. We're not just looking for engineers and product people. We're looking for pretty well-rounded group of people. It's a big problem to tackle. On the investor side, hey, if people would love to invest, we're always happy to talk. We're fortunately lucky to be in the middle of some good financing and have some good backers already. But we will always need more. So yeah, sign up, join the company, invest. We'll take it all.
And then if someone listening is into any of those things, how can people find you online? What's the URL for the site? Are you on social media? Can they email you? How can people get in touch for the last question?
Yeah, this will be really, that's great. So go to mainstreet.us. That's our website. If you just search Main Street or work on Main Street, you'll find us at Twitter. You'll find us at Facebook, LinkedIn. And if you want to personally contact me, I'm more than happy to. I'm always happy to talk. Twitter is at Doug Ludlow, DougLudlow, and my email address is Doug at workonmainstreet.com. That's Doug at workonmainstreet. Email me. Maybe I'll give you a discount for Main Street, or I can get you in contact with the right hiring manager within the company. Happy to help in whatever way I can.
All right. Well, Doug, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. I really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. I really enjoyed it.